Tech by Tips.
Welcome to another Tech by Tips video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the application Sonarr, how to set it up and configure it in our Synology NAS, and we're going to test it to make sure that all the configuration is working. Hope you like this video. Thank you, and let's get to it. Welcome. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the application named Sonarr. You can find the code for this application at GitHub at the URL github.com/Sonarr. And this is a PVR basically for Usenet and BitTorrent users, and it checks for feeds so it can grab new like TV episodes or anime episodes for your favorite shows. And it'll basically handle the sorting and renaming of the file so that everything is neatly stored in your NAS, and it can be configured to automatically like upgrade the quality of the file. So if, let's say for example, you wanted an episode but you only found it in 720p, but you actually want it in 1080p, then when it finds a new version of that file in 1080p, it automatically upgrades that to the latest version, so it re-downloads it on the better version. This application is open source, is very useful, is very well maintained, and has a good community behind it. So hopefully you'll be able to make good use of it. As you can see, there's a lot of contributors to this repository. And let's get to it. Let's install our Sonarr inside our Synology NAS using Docker. As we see here, we already have two containers. Those are our downloaders. That's SAB NZBD for Usenet and qBittorrent for torrents. So now we're gonna add a new container to our list, and we're gonna go into the registry and we are going to look for Sonarr with 2 R's. And as usual, we're gonna go for the Linux server ones. It's more reliable, more stable. We don't have to worry about them doing shady things with it. So we right click on it, select download this image, and after that, when it gets prompted for the version, we just say that we want to download the latest version. It's taking a little bit of time. There we go, latest, select, and it'll start downloading the image here to our NAS. It as usual, it's a relatively small image. That's the advantage of using Docker. It's great, small images that we can spin up and destroy whenever we need. So it shouldn't take this long. Let's wait a little bit here until it's done downloading. And just like that, it has finished downloading. It's 296 megs, the size of the final image that we got. So let's clear that. And now we select Sonarr here and we click the launch button. We're gonna leave everything as default. We click next. We rename this to Sonarr, and we say we want to limit the resources that it uses so that we prevent it from grabbing all the resources of a machine. We enable auto restart in case for some reason the container stops. It'll auto start. And then we go into advanced settings. In the advanced settings, as usual, we're going to go in here and we're going to add 3 new environment variables. These are going to be our process user ID, which is usually 1026, the group ID, which is usually 100, and the time zone. I'm going to select America, New York. All right, once we have that, we proceed, and then it prompts us for a port that we're going to use to listen to for the container, the host to be listening on. The container is listening on 808989. We already specified 8080 and 8081, so we can probably go with 8082 here in our host. So when we look for this port, we're going to be redirected to 8989 and we'll see Sonarr. Then we click next. The next thing we have to do is specify the volumes that we want to give to it. We're going to add a folder here. We're going to look for Docker configs, and then we need to create a new folder here for our application. So we're going to name this Sonarr, and we're going to select that. Additionally, we're going to select the downloads completed, and then we're gonna go for Sonarr here. Additionally, we're gonna go for our location of our media. So we're gonna have TV in our media folder, and we also are gonna have anime in a separate folder, so we add that too. And then we specify how it's gonna be mounted into the Docker container. The first thing is gonna be our config directory. Then after that, we're gonna have the downloads folder. Then we're gonna have the TV and anime folders. That's how it's going to be mapped in our container. So we click next, we validate that the information is correct, we leave this checked so it starts automatically, and we click done. So this will start the creation of the container. So if we go back into our containers, we'll see a new container named Sonarr. We can click on the details button and then go to the logs to make sure that everything is going correctly. We see that there's work being done, and yeah, it's doing its usual preparation for the container. So whenever you see like migrating this, migrating that, that's normal. Don't be scared. As long as you see that it keeps on working, it's good. And then in the end, we should get some sort of message that tells us that it's ready and it's listening. So we're gonna wait a little bit, keep refreshing the logs, and see when it ends. Alright, we have received that message that says we're listening on the following URL, which is on port 8989 for the container. So when we go 8082 in our host, it should redirect us to here, and then we should get the user interface for Sonarr. We see that it's still working on other stuff in the background, so we should be okay to close this, and then we can go into our browser, open a new tab, go to our NAS IP, and then port 8082, and that should get us here into Sonarr. As you can see, the user interface loaded immediately. It was really fast. So now we can go ahead and proceed with the configuration of Sonarr. The first thing we want to do here is we're going to go into the settings option on the left, and then we're going to have a lot of things that we need to configure. Let's go first into media management and see what we can do here. First, it says rename episodes. It's not checked, so we want to check that to make sure that our files are named in a proper way, so everything looks good in our folders and everything's easy to see and navigate, etc. So we want to replace illegal characters, so we leave that as it is, and then this gives us an example of how the naming of the episodes would be. For example, here it would have the title of the series, then the season number and episode number, then the title of the episode, and then the version if you want it. I usually don't care about having the version in there, so I just delete that, and then once I step out of that, you see that it's gonna end with the episode title. I recommend that. If you want to see the version, you can leave it as it is. Here we're going to do the same. We're going to remove the quality full, and everything now should have just the names, and the folders are going to be named by season, so that's perfect. And then here we have an interesting thing. If we have an episode that like a file that covers multiple episodes, how do we name that? I like to use the prefixed range, which is this format here, season, and then the first episode in that file and the last episode of that file with a dash. So that lets me know that it covers episodes 1, 2, and 3, for example. But there's many options here. You can pick whichever you want. You could have it the extend version. You can have the scene version, which is more detailed. I just think it's fine with a prefixed. You pick whichever you feel it's more to your liking. Then here, file management, I'm gonna say check that. That says if you delete an episode from the disk, it's automatically unmonitored in Sonarr, so it doesn't try to re-download things that you have deleted. Let's say, for example, you see your episodes and then you don't have enough disk space and you want to delete them because you already watched those. You can use this, and then when you delete it, it won't try to re-download it again. so that doesn't break the fact that you want to save space. And the last thing we have to do here is that we have to specify root folders for our content. So we click the add root folder here, and we're going to look for the TV folder that we specified, and we're going to add a new one that is for the anime that we specified. And now we have 2 root folders. So it's going to look in the /TV for TV episodes and /anime for anime episodes. And with this we can save the changes, and that's our first change here. We can go into the profiles. Here you can edit the quality profiles that you can use to download episodes. I normally honestly leave it as it is. I don't need to do much with that. So if you want, you can make changes here. I wouldn't recommend it. They're fine as it is. When we go into quality, you can also make changes here into what type of quality you want for each quality definition. And that's usually done by, for example, the size of the file. That's how you define the quality. I usually don't touch these either. So yeah, you can just basically leave that as it is and go into indexers. Now here's something important. The indexers is where you specify the place where you grab your torrents or NZBs from. But in this series, I'm not gonna show you how to add them manually here. We're gonna use another application to manage this in a better way, because it can manage all of your Rs from one application, and you don't have to keep adding and modifying the same data in multiple places. So for now, we're gonna leave this empty. We're not gonna touch the indexers. So that's gonna be it for now. We go into download clients, and here's where we specify which applications we're going to use to download our content. In that case, it'll be the 2 applications that we created, which are qBittorrent and SAP-NZBD. So we're going to click on the plus sign here. We're going to look for SAP-NZBD. We're going to give it a name, SAP-NZBD, and then we need to specify some information. So we're going to put the IP of our NAS, and then we're going to specify the port for that application. If we go back into here, we can check here that SAP-NZBD is actually using 8081. So we're going to put that port 8081 for SAP-NZBD, and we need to get that API key that, remember, I mentioned when we were setting up SAP-NZBD. So we need to log into SAP-NZBD to do that. So we are here in SAP-NZBD. We specified SAP-NZBD as the username and password. So let's go into SAP-NZBD. Let's go into the gears. Then we go into general. And in general, we're going to grab this API key. We need this. We go back into Sonarr. We put that there. And we specify our username and password for the application too. We need to specify that we are going to use the TV category because remember that SAP-NZBD uses categories to download to specific folders. So TV corresponds to Sonarr. And then the priority, we're going to make sure that we tell it to always use force and force here. And then we also wanted to remove completed downloads and remove failed downloads from the queue. So now we need to check that this is successfully connecting to SAP. So we click the test button and we get that check mark that tells us that it is working. So now we can save it, and we can then proceed to configure qBittorrent. So we click the plus button again. We're going to go here in the torrents, select qBittorrent, and we're going to give it a name, qBittorrent. We need to specify the IP of our NAS, and qBittorrent in our case is using port 8080. So we make sure we specify 8080 here, and then we need to go here into qBittorrent. All right, and we check some things here that we might need. First, the username and password is qBitTorrent, and our category for qBitTorrent, we need to specify that it's going to be Sonarr. So we leave it as Sonarr, which is just the name of the app. On the priority, you can pick whichever you want. Honestly, I don't make any changes here. The only important thing that I do make a change here is where it says start, I change that to for start to make sure that it really tries to start the torrent when it's added. And if you want to download the content in sequential order, you can specify that in here. I wouldn't recommend it, or using the first and last first. Yeah, I wouldn't use this either. Just let it download anything that it can download, and then now that we have configured this, we test it and we get a check mark, so we click save. That means that both of our download clients have been configured here. But there's one last thing that we need to do. We need to specify a remote path mapping. What does this mean? It means that we have a folder in those two clients that we have mapped to something else in our container. So we need to make a mapping of that. So in our container, this path corresponds to this path in the downloader clients. So we just click the plus symbol here, and we're going to specify our host, which is our NAS, and then the remote path that we're going to put is downloads Sonarr, because that's where both of our download clients are going to save those files. And then locally, we're going to go here and we're going to select downloads, because that's pointing to that specific folder in our container. So once we have that, we click save, and we have that remote mapping set. We don't need to click save anything because all those changes have already been saved. So now we can proceed. If we go into the import lists, there is really nothing we need to do here. That's if you want to import a list of shows that you're following, for example in the TV database or something like that. You could come here and then select, I want to import from track T list or the Plex watch list or something like that, but I'm not using that. If you want to use it, fine. There's documentation on doing that. It's not going to be covered in this series. And then if we go into the connect area, we're not going to do anything here. That's if you want to connect for notifications and stuff. I'm not going to use that. Notifications are not necessary, really. You can just come in here and see the status of your episodes. For metadata, that's if you have, for example, Kodi or something similar. You can have Sonarr create that metadata and embed it next to the file. I'm not going to use it, honestly, but you can do it if you want it. For tags, I'm not going to use it either. You can search online what this is for. It's not really relevant. You don't need it to get it working. And then in general, we're going to go in here and we're going to check that things are as we like. First of all, security, I would suggest that you use a forms logging and then give it a username or password. For example, Sonarr. And then make a note that we have the API key in here in this section. Settings, general security, so we will need that eventually. And what else we can do here? Yeah, that's basically it for here. So we save the changes. Then since now we need to use a username and password, it'll restart. So we click restart now and we wait for the container to restart. It's going to take a little bit of time, so let's be patient. Alright, it has started and now it prompts us for a username and password because we have specified that. So we put our Sonarr user and password combination and we're in again. So now the last thing we go to is the UI. But honestly, I don't make any changes here. You can make changes if you want. And that's all the basic configurations that we need to do in the settings for Sonarr. If we go into system, we see details about the folders, how much space we have, total unused and free. And we can see tasks here. That tells you the tasks that are going to be running automatically in the background, and you can also trigger them yourself if you go here and click that button. And you can make backups of your configuration. It is recommended that you keep a backup every once in a while, so that if for some reason you lose the configuration file, you can always use that as a way to bring it back to how it was working. This part tells us about updates, but since we're using containers, we would be updating through Docker. Here in the events, we can see information like logs that are important, and the log files you can actually see here. It shows you all the log files, and the latest one you can always download and see what it shows. But remember, we were using Docker, so most likely a lot of those logs are going to be viewable within Docker. So now if we click on series, we don't have anything, but we have our system already working. It's just empty. So this should be it. Now Sonarr is mainly configured. The only thing that we have not configured yet is the indexers, but that's going to be covered in a next video where we're going to be talking about an application named Prowlar. Prowlar is the application that automatically manages this part of our other applications. So don't miss that episode. That's important because it's going to make it super easy for you to add and remove and update indexers automatically. Alright, now that we have set up Prowlar, we can see that all of our indexes are coming back from Prowlar. They're being auto-configured. So now our Sonarr should be ready for us to start using it. So let's give it a test. Let's go here where it says series, and let's go looking for a series. Let's go for an anime series. So let's look for Bleach, for example. Here we go. So let's grab, let's touch here where it says Bleach 2004. And here's an important thing, right? We have two root folders, so you have to pick where your anime is going to be stored versus where your TV shows are going to be stored. So in here, I'm going to select anime because this is an anime. And here we can specify what quality we want for this. Let's say 720. And create a season folder. Perfect. And then here you can say to start searching for all the episodes in the series that you add automatically if you mark this. And for now I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to add the series. So not checked and add. So when we see this, we go back into series, and now it's adding Bleach. If we go into here, you see that it's scanning and refreshing. So now it has pulled down all the information from the TV database, etc. And now it knows all the episodes that belong, for example, to season 1, all the episodes that belong to season 17, which is the last one. It's currently airing. So if you see here, if you like hover over the ribbon here, you see that it says it's monitored. So when an episode is monitored, it means that it's aware that it needs it, that's something that you want. So all of the seasons right now are monitored. Now let's see if we can pull an episode. Right now there's nothing downloading. So when you want to manually download something, you can go into the episode, the specific episode. For example, let's see the last episode of Bleach that was released today at 10 a.m. right? So we go to the right side where it has that little magnifying glass, or you can also go into the little person icon. The magnifying glass is basically telling it you search for it automatically. You do your best to pick the episode. If you click on the person symbol, it's going to be a manual search. It's going to do the search on all the different indexers that you have for that specific episode, and it's going to give you a list of all that it found. And then from that list, you can pick which one you want to download. So I'm doing this specifically to see if I can find an NZB so we can test that it's working with SAB NZBD, and a torrent so we can test that it's working with Qubit torrent. This search usually takes a little bit of time, so just be patient, let it do its thing, and we'll be back when it's done searching. And here we are. It gave us a list of all the things that it found. As you can see, a lot of it are torrents, and there's only a couple of NZBs, and they apparently seem to come from NZB Geek. So if you hover over this, it gives you details about the release. So that's a good way for you to identify. Another thing is gives you the quality here, so you can identify what episode you want to download. For example, we set it up at 720p, but if you see, there's very few 720p, so it would most likely have downloaded this one here. Oh, that's not even the right series. It's Kimetsu no Yaiba, so that wouldn't have downloaded. Let's look up here. Bleach 1080. Yeah, looks like everything that's been released is 1080 except for this one. Season 19, episode 39. Yeah, that doesn't look right. So yeah, it wouldn't have downloaded anything. So in this case, let's just start a download for 1080p just to see if it works with NZB, SAB NZBD. So I click on the little download button to add it to the queue, and then I go into SAB NZBD and wait to see if it pops up. And there it is. It sent it directly to SAB NZBD. As you can see, it maxes out the connection because this is using private servers with high speed, so it downloads Bleach without a problem. So it's working with SAB NZBD. So when this is done processing, unpacking, repairing, etc., then it should automatically grab that. So we can go back in here and into the activity, and we can see that it's gonna find that the file was downloaded with SAB NZBD, and eventually it'll pick it from that list. It's a little slow, so hopefully we can get to see it in here. No, it's already moving it. Okay, we see it. So it knows that we downloaded it. This progress bar is always a little behind, so you just have to be patient. But then you'll see that once it knows that the progress was completed, it'll come and take this file and move it into the folder that was specified for the NAS to store the files. So in this case, it would come into the file station folder named media anime, and we'll see the folder for Bleach was already created, and then the season is created, and then boom, here's a file. So you can see it automatically moved that file here, and it's ready for you to use. Let's go back into Sonarr, and it's empty. It cleared it because it managed the download and it put it in its right place. So if we go back, it should be the same way for a torrent. So let's go back into season 17. Let's get the episode from August 5. Let's do another search, and we're gonna try this time to use qubit torrent, so a torrent file to download. And here we go. We have another list of this episode, and we're gonna pick a torrent one this time. So let's click here where it says add to the download queue, and wait, let's verify that we're on the right. Yeah, it doesn't say season, but it's probably, let me see. Yeah, it doesn't say the number of the episode on the other ones. So okay, let's try Bleach season 17. That was supposed to be episode 19. Okay, I don't see it. Let's pick another one. Let's use episode 9. Bleach 17.9. Okay, so that's a torrent, so we click here, and then we go into the qubit torrent and wait to see if it comes here. And there it is. Now it has been added to our qubit torrent. If this has any peers, then it'll start downloading. We see that it has seeders and peers, so that should start downloading soon. Yeah, it is, and it's pretty fast. So it's not as fast as Usenet, but it'll download. So if you like your anime or your TV shows, that's how you go about it. So we already tested with an anime. It's basically the same thing with a TV series. So you just basically have to look for another series. Let me see if it can find a series from Spain. Yes, this one. I highly doubt that this is available, but this is content that here in the US you cannot find, so that's why you would use something like this. Okay, so this we make sure that it's in the TV folder. We're good with 720, and create the season folder, add AIDA. So now it creates a folder and it has all the seasons and all the information that we need. So now if we go and try to get an episode, I highly doubt that it's gonna find it, but let me give it a try. Let's go in here. And we found a lot of stuff that is not what we are looks to me. So yep, this is not gonna work, but it works the same way like we just saw with Bleach. If you want to automatically look for it, you just click here, or if you want to automatically download a whole series or season, as long as they're marked as monitored, you can come up here and click on search monitored, and it'll look for every single episode that you have checked with the monitored ribbon. So yep, that's the test of our Sonarr application working with 7ZBD and Qubit Torrent. Hope you like this video. Like, subscribe, and share. That'll help the channel if you like the content. Also remember, you can write comments and suggest topics that you want covered in the channel. And that's gonna be it. See you on the next one.